There's something that we hear from parents quite often, and I'm going to even be a little gender stereotypical with this.
Mm-hmm.
The mom will say, like, "Oh, let's accommodate. This is too hard for you right now. Let's do this instead.
Yeah.
Be flexible." And the dad, and I'm thinking heterosexual relationships, I'm just like being super stereotypical right now. And the
Right.
dad is like, "You're too flexible. You're you're not preparing our child for the world." How do you
Mm-hmm.
hold both of those truths at the same time? Because there's a purpose behind both of those. We need to be understanding, and also we need to teach skills.
Yes.
What do
Great
we?
question. Great question. And I get that all the time when I'm doing parent coaching. I almost always have that scenario. And I think both can coexist. I think so often we approach situations as either or has to be the truth when it could be and. So it's okay that mom is a little bit soft on the child, and it's okay that dad's a little bit hard on the child. Like both of those can be okay. I think when we have that dichotomy and we have those opposites type of parenting, sometimes that can actually be a huge benefit because that brings about balance in the home. So how I think we can balance that out is by being able for the parents to be on the same page in terms of their approach. To say, hey, the mom, for example, in this scenario, could be the empathic, listening, validating person. I know that this situation is really hard for you. I knew it hurt your feelings when blank happened. I'm really sorry that happened to you. And then dad can then tag team, you're it kind of thing, is like, yeah, I know that was rough. So when that happens, what can you do in the future? So that when people are gossiping about you, for example, what can you do differently so that you don't feel so hurt by it in the future? So then you're having that validation piece coming in, and then you can bring in, okay, let's come up with some solutions for that so that you can feel like you're building more resilience and grit for the future so that you don't get so hurt by the situation, because it's going to happen. Rejection is going to happen. People saying bad things about you is going to happen. You're going to fail. Those things are going to happen. So just staying in your emotion isn't going to help you deal with it. Being able to have an action plan and a solution is actually going to help you. So I actually can see both parents, even though they're approaching it differently, can actually be a good tag team situation to help the child move forward past that situation. So I don't see it as necessarily bad.
That's interesting. As you're saying all that, I realize so the scenario Cecilia kind of laid out there, maybe we know some people that are like that live in our house, and that might be sitting right here actually talking to you. But we both have like kind of an understanding for each other. And I think we do get into this role of like, I think she should be doing it my way, and she thinks I should be doing it her way. And I like what you're talking about. Like we can both come at it with our own approaches, but we still have the cohesive principle, I guess, that we're moving towards the same philosophy. Yeah. And it's interesting because I started thinking like it really takes trust between each other. Like I have to trust that what she's doing is the right thing, and I trust that she's thinking about it. And the same way she has to trust like what I'm doing, like I'm thinking it through, and that I'm doing, whatever it is that I'm doing. Who knows what I'm doing sometimes, but like that's an interesting relationship that the couple has to come to. I mean, and then of course, if you're single parenting, that's a whole challenge in itself. I really I appreciate that approach, and I can see value in that rather than trying to fix each other. And then all of a sudden we're in this weird dynamic while we're trying to talk to the kiddo about the difficulty they're having, and in the meantime we're like figuring our stuff out. So that's really interesting. I value that a lot.
Well, and I see that with couples in a partnership or a marriage, but I also see that across cultures, because sometimes if you have two people in a relationship that are come from completely different cultures or ethnic backgrounds, their approach is also going to be very different. And I have several families like that as well too, where we have, the dad usually who's if he's Black or West Indian, like from the Caribbean, or African, and his very specific type of cultural mindset, with a white mom, for example. And that's a very different kind of mindset. And then both of them often will clash with it, and seeing, well, again, the usually if it's a Black dad, West Indian dad, African dad, they're thinking about, just suck it up, move on. That was the mindset that, especially, and it's generational too. So depending on how your mindset, how you grew up, and the kind of dismissive attitude many of us felt like we received from our own parents, then that's the kind of parenting then we tend to pass on. And so that makes it very hard for a child who's highly sensitive to have a parent who thinks that way, because many times parents didn't learn about this type of temperament. They were told that you're being too soft and you got to toughen up your kid. And so that those clashes can happen too. So it can be between like a mom and a dad. It can also be between within a culture, two different cultures as well too can clash when they're raising a child. So we have to just be aware of where the messages that we're getting from how we were brought up and then how we're bringing that into this situation, because many people don't prepare for how they're going to parent. They just parent the way they were parented. Yeah. And that doesn't always work out too well.
Yeah.
Or they know they don't want to parent the way they were parented. And so then they're just like, well,
or then they swing like
way exactly.
Right.
And that's not helpful either.
No.
Or they just like let go. And then that's also like frustrating for them because then they don't know what to do.